We're just a few weeks away from Great Falls transforming into the Western art capital of the world for Western Art Week. Coming up on this episode of We're No Damn Experts, we're diving into the details about one show at First Peoples Buffalo Jump State Park.
Best damn podcast, the best damn town. You wanna get up, get ready to get down. With its big wide sky and the wild river Thames, if you wanna go, we can take you there to Great Falls, Montana.
Welcome to the greatest damn town in Montana, Great Falls. I'm Rebecca Ingham.
I'm Shannon Newth.
And we're no damn experts. We are so in tune like we've done it
That
before.
was good.
Yeah,
that was one of our better ones.
Solid. I'm pretty excited for today. We got started as soon as we could because we were losing some podcast gold, Shannon.
We were. Yeah, I'm real excited for this conversation.
I'm so stoked.
Hopefully our guests are not ones that as soon as you hit record, they change into a different quiet person.
What I'm guessing is we're going to see
Definitely.
multiple personalities.
Yes, in a
here
good
today.
way.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm super
I'm
excited.
excited.
Who's here?
All right. We have Kqun Kuka here and Andy Keller from First Peoples Buffalo Jump State Park, among other things, which we will talk about. Welcome to both of you.
Hi, glad to be here.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Well done. We always tell our guests that if they don't know when to respond, we'll start making fun of them, and we don't have to do that just
No,
yet
they
today.
jumped right in.
Save that for later.
Let's get the details out. Who are you people? Where do you come from? And what do you do? And how long you been in Great Falls? And social security numbers, credit
Awesome.
score, those type of things.
Yeah,
Whatever
we
works
want
for
to
you
know
guys.
all of it.
Excellent. So my name is Andy Keller. I am the park ranger out at First Peoples Buffalo Jump. Coincidentally, it'll be my second year anniversary on the day of the art show. So my
2
first,
years.
Yes, so this will be my third art show that's coming up.
And
in
who
March.
hired you?
Yes, Quinn over here was on my hiring committee.
Oh,
So
nice.
we've had that connection. She's a big deal within the state. She
So
really
are
is.
you, Andy. So are
Aw.
you.
So it's always good to have friends in high places. So being friends with Quinn here always makes me feel important when we go to FWP meetings.
Wow.
We're like, we're going to talk to Quinn because
That's
she would just.
flattering. But I've always been a bottom feeder, so
Don't believe that for a minute.
Andy, before we got on the air, you said you were a farm boy and you've been here for 2 years. You look old enough to have done something before you showed up here.
I'm an old man, so some people are surprised about how old I am, but
Oh.
I'm a child of the 90s. I am
Oh,
from
Me too. Mhm.
I am from Eastern Montana, from Sidney, Montana.
Wow.
Eastern Montana.
Yes, the real Eastern Montana. It's not Billings or Great Falls.
No,
that's
that's
Central Montana.
That is
Real
Central
East.
Montana.
But yes, I grew up on a small family farm over in Sydney, kind of very sheltered. Went to college at Montana State University.
Oh my God, Andy, another good one.
Yeah,
yes.
she's just
Go
loving you more and
Bobcats.
more. Mhm.
So I'm definitely a tried and true Bobcat fan. But yes, I grew up over in Eastern Montana. I
What
loved.
kind of farm?
We had a little of everything and not enough of anything. So we had some cows, some sheep, some pigs, some chickens, occasionally a goat, a llama maybe, apparently at some points. Whatever my dad could get his hands on, we had. So
Nice.
these cold days that we're having now, it brings back all the memories of trying
Ooh.
to feed the animals and
Yeah.
keep the
Break
water
the ice
going
on
and
the
break
water.
the ice.
Yeah.
Yes. So I did all of that as a kid. It wasn't really my jam, I guess, but I have all of this nostalgia now for my farm boy days. But I went to MSU and I loved Indiana Jones. So Indiana Jones was some of my favorite things whenever I was growing
So you
up.
studied archaeology?
So I was a history major. At the time, Montana State didn't have archaeology as a degree. They
that
had
makes sense.
anthropology and history, but I did take a semester of college in London.
Ooh.
So my first time on an airplane, I think I was 21, and I left from Sydney, Montana to go to London.
Wow, that's a big first trip.
It was a
by
big first
plane.
trip. So it was like from Sydney to Billings on old Big Sky Airlines, and then to Minneapolis, and then to Newark, and then to London. So it
Wow.
took about 24 hours to get over there, and I traveled around Europe quite a bit. I had a lot of fun and adventures. Some of them can be spoken of, some of them cannot.
That means it was a good trip.
It was
Another
a good
After Dark
time.
episode coming.
Yes. So, but I had a lot of fun over there. Was able to travel around the mainland quite a bit. Learned how to use the subway. I still, being from Montana, I still don't like to get on buses when I'm in large towns. I'm like, you go to the bus schedule at the little stop,
Yeah.
and I'm always very confused about where it's going and when it's coming and going. So, but after MSU, I actually moved to California for 5 years. So I lived in Northern California. I worked for Jensen Jewelers my last year of college in Bozeman.
Oh, wow.
And so when I was in California, first I worked at Hertz Rent-A-Car for a little bit. I decided washing cars when it was 105 degrees out wasn't my jam either. So I went back to the jewelry business, was a jewelry store manager for a few years. And then I also worked for TRICARE. And then I moved back to Bozeman. So
Quite
I
the
was back in
background.
Bozeman. Yeah. So I've traveled around Montana. For being a farm boy from eastern Montana, I always think I'm kind of well-traveled, but my redneck roots, I always say I speak 2 languages. I speak redneck and hillbilly or something in that order. But yeah, so that's my background. And a few years ago, I was working for job service in the state of Montana in Sydney, helping people get jobs and every day saying, what do you want to be when you grow up? So I ended
Asking
up
yourself the same thing.
asking myself the same question. I decided to put my hat in the ring, and I ended up getting a job at first at Giant Springs.
Oh,
So I
okay.
worked seasonally 3 summers ago at Giant Springs, and then the position opened at First People's Buffalo
wow.
Joe, and I applied, and Kqun took mercy on me and hired me.
No,
so.
Andy has a wonderful personality and he's extremely likable.
So yeah, so I've been out
That's
at
what you
First
need
People's
for a
Buffalo Joe
reason.
for a couple of years. So that's kind of my background, but I definitely love my
Cool.
job.
Can I
so.
ask a question?
Sure.
So you said that you loved Indiana Jones, right?
Correct.
Okay. Indiana Jones hates snakes, and you work at a place where there can be a lot of snakes. How does that work for you?
That is, I did not really have the snake fear, I guess, that Indiana
Okay.
Jones did.
Okay.
I did
that
grow up.
helps.
The farm was really owned by my grandmother, and she did not like snakes. So
You were the
she
snake wrangler.
she really didn't like snakes around. Where we lived in the valley by the Yellowstone River, we were only about a mile from the river growing up. There weren't really rattlesnakes where we grew
Okay.
up, but my uncle, probably who was 20 years older than my dad, he got bit by a rattlesnake on their old homestead property, probably in the late 30s, early 40s. So we had that family kind of mystique or history of, my grandpa cutting it with a razor blade
Ooh.
and sucking out the poison.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
they say, of course, not to do now, but
Yeah.
he was
Now.
fine. But my grandma did not like snakes. Since being at First Peoples, we do have we have our mascot out there, Alpha. He is a little snake. He's about 5 feet, so we do handle him. He's a great teaching aid. If you're having some, let's say, disconnect with the student groups that come out there, he has saved many school visit by bringing out Alpha. The kids love him. But we do see rattlesnakes out there, but we've never really had an incident. We're not their prey. They usually go in the other direction. I've never fallen into a pit of snakes like Indiana Jones.
I'm sure it's coming.
That's good.
I hope so.
There is a pit there full of
Yes,
snakes.
Exactly. So,
Okay, well, you're better than Indiana Jones, so
Yeah.
childhood dream accomplished.
yeah, so if you want to come out and take a look at Alpha, he's kind of in his hibernation stage. It's Burmation over the winter. He's pretty inactive during the winter months, but he's pretty fun during the summer and spring. So, yeah.
All right,
Very
let's
cool.
hear from world-renowned celebrity.
Well, that was a hard
dream
act to
maker over there.
follow. So my name is Kqun Kuka, and it's my maiden name. I kept my father's last name, and I tease my husband because I say that's my Blackfeet name. But if I took my husband's name, which I will shortly, it would be Kqun McGuire, and then I would be Irish.
Yeah.
That's very different.
So the multiple personalities that are going to come out today are going to be
We can see
the
those.
Blackfeet Kqun and the Irish Kqun.
I love that.
And usually our art show is around St. Patrick's Day, so you get to see a little bit of both sometimes. I was
Appropriate.
born in Browning on the Blackfeet Reservation,
Okay.
and I am am one of 8 children. I always have to count. And
You were going to say 6.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah,
gonna
you
say
beat me.
7.
There was 6 in my family. So
Oh.
yeah, you beat me.
Wow.
So 6.
And there's 6 girls.
Oh, my
and
goodness.
we pair up. We don't all get along, but we get along with our pair. And then my brother, who's the baby, he stays with mom. So there's
Yeah, that's his pair.
that's his pair. So we lived in East
Wait.
Glacier.
You said there were 8.
Yes, I lost one.
Oh, okay.
So we'll
Thank you.
we'll
We'll get there.
we'll fill one
Okay.
in with mom, right?
Okay.
She'll be
She
the
can be
8.
the pair.
Okay.
Okay.
And I did lose my father at a young age. He's the renowned artist. So I get the Kuka, but he started the legacy. So we're the Nepo babies
Yeah.
To the
Just
Western
riding
art
off
world.
your
to the Western art world, and
Just
it's
riding
legit.
off your dad's
Just own
coattails.
that. Yeah.
And I'm KKM, not KKW, like
Okay.
other people in the world, right?
Uh-huh.
And my hair is real. So I was born in Browning, and we lived in East Glacier. Dad had an art gallery in the park right
Okay.
there on the reservation. Dad was an art teacher. Mom was a banker, and we had a pretty good life. And our house was tucked away in the park. I have vivid memories of just like trees and frogs and water and like,
Sounds idyllic.
yeah.
It
And
sounds
for-
amazing.
And for my dad to be this, he kind of broke a lot of barriers as a tribal member, went to the army, got his degree. He's the only one in his family with an education. So here he is with all these kids. And I remember my oldest sister, according to dad and mom, that she was being bullied at school. So he wanted us raised in Great Falls. And so coming here in the late 70s, my memories are going back in the summers. So I was born in Browning, but I was raised predominantly here. And so I consider myself an urban Indian because I didn't live inside the reservation during that time frame that and I had opportunity. So I always chalked my opportunity up to my mom and dad's decision. So the life here was a little bit more of a struggle. I'm a graduate of CMR.
Okay.
We lived in Valley View over under the Hill 57, which is a famous mountain here in Great Falls that you
Yeah.
should come and see. It's beautiful, has a lot of history,
Yeah.
right?
Ton of
A lot of
history.
history.
And now,
That's not
And
well
developing.
known as much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a good attractant to come see. Growing up here, played basketball, played some sports. Then I went to college all over. I bounced around. Started here in just an unidentified field trying to find my place. I followed my dad to South Dakota. He got a wild hair, which I inherited. And he starts teaching at an art institute in South Dakota at a small tribal reservation, Lakota Sioux. And I follow him and I get free tuition if I go. So I'm all excited. And so where were you on 9/11? I was with my dad in his art classroom and we watched the Twin Towers. And it was pretty amazing in that dreadful, sad way to know like my dad knew everything that was going on and he knew politics and he knew that kind of stuff. And I'm just this young 20-year-old in my dad's class going, does he really know all that stuff? And he does.
Yeah.
And so my dad suffered a quadruple bypass, a heart surgery there, and I actually ended up teaching that class towards the end of the
Oh, my
semester. It was
goodness.
an art class on design. And then we moved home, and this is the part of his health that ultimately took his life. He suffered a massive stroke 2 years later. So his art, I was so happy to go with him because his art, I got to, he was my professor and I got to absorb it and I got to be like, but growing up, he was our professor. Like we had real people in the community pay for his classes to do drawing, to do watercolor, and we had to be at class too. And so there's like 6 of us with all these other people who paid for the class and we got to be, and so he instructed us then, but to be in a real institute, like that and get credit and watch him was pretty amazing. And I bring it up because he gets the credit for what the show is at the Buffalo Jump.
did we say your dad's name yet?
The late King Kuka.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a pioneer I credit a lot of things to him, but I also credit a lot to my mom. You know, Dad taught us our talents, our designs, our work ethic, and Mom was our hope. She was our faith. She kept us strong in those virtues that you need to have, and she markets us, and she gets all our stuff ready and pretty and packaged, and so there's a lot of work behind the team. And so Dad, you know, it's like a band, the Zach Brown band. Only Zach gets credit, but
Yeah.
It's a huge band.
right? And they're rocking. And
Yeah.
so Dad's name is famous, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes that helped that production, including us kids. We got paid a wage to mass produce his work. And so we would go, and I got a 10-cent raise one time by making a mistake that I thought I was going to get in serious trouble for, but it actually saved us money and time. And so I got 10 cents more than my
Look at
siblings.
you.
What kind of art did your dad do? It sounded like all the art.
Yeah, so he is known for his Kuka graphs, which are oil on paper, and this technique he developed called an embossing, where it's raised on this thicker paper. It is not known how he does it, and so
Do you know?
I do.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah,
Secret family recipe,
right.
basically. Yeah.
Yeah. And
How much of the whiskey do we have to serve in order for it to be spilled here?
you know, I want to see him again in the afterlife.
Yeah.
And
So
So, no.
you're like, nope, not gonna slip. Yeah.
And then he was just really good about developing new mediums and exploring. And so because of his young age and his life on the reservation, he was in boarding schools. He went to an art boarding school down in New Mexico and Santa Fe, and he learned sculpture, and he learned bronze, and he learned a different medium. He came home. He always had a knack for jewelry too. And so he would perfect something, and I think he would move on and try another medium, where all of us kids took a medium. I don't do too many, but not like him. And sometimes I don't even consider myself an artist, because you look at that standard. And so we all have one medium that we really like, and that's our favorite, and that's where we excel. So he
which one's
did
yours?
them all. I do steel work
Okay.
with metal, and I am dabbling in beadwork nowadays.
Neat.
So you're an artist. And
Ish.
You're an artist.
And
Period.
trust me, from someone who's
Yeah.
dabbled. But at some point along the trail, you hired Andy, and you're part of Fish, Wildlife, and Parks.
Yeah.
Yes.
So is that your?
So yeah, are we going to hear a different voice and persona
Is
now
this
come out?
another type of career that you have, or is this a little bit more solid?
Okay, so Dad said you can't do art full time. It's a struggle. Look at me. Look at us. We struggled. We weren't well off, and it's amazing that he can raise 6 kids off an artist's income.
Yeah, no kidding.
And so he said, you have to get your degree and you can do art on the side. So my degree, I started in generals here in Great Falls, did art in South Dakota. And then I transferred to the Salish and Kootenai College.
Okay.
And I got my degree in fisheries and wildlife.
Oh.
And it's an environmental science degree. And so from there, I'm cleaning a tractor, working for a ranch one day, and I am changing oil, and I go,
Been there.
what? Yep. It wasn't 105 degrees, but it was
Yes.
close. And
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I doing?
You had similar moments where you're
Yeah.
just like, what is happening?
I have a degree and I'm scrubbing this tractor. Although I would go back to farming now that I've been in government for 18 years.
Yeah.
But so I called the Fish and Game office in Helena, told them my background, told them I had some experience in research with some elk population that I did as a junior and senior. And they spit me into this enforcement division, which is bizarre to me because why did they put me there? And they offered
They
me
needed willing
something
participants.
happened
Yeah.
because they were like, "Can you work as a water safety officer in Great Falls?" And I was like, "Whatever that is, yeah, you bet, I got
Yeah, I
that."
can do that.
I can do
I
that.
know what water looks
Yeah,
like.
and Great Falls, I grew up there, so yeah, I'm moving home, and I'm taking $10 less an hour. It's a seasonal job. I'm gonna move back in with my mom, and I'm like, "Gotcha!" And then like 2 weeks later, I'm like, "What's a water safety officer?"
She's going to be a lifeguard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was just like, what do I do? But I'm going. And so that was kind of my foot in the door, because while I was there, I found the opportunities of what this agency has to offer. And so I applied to be a game warden and became a game warden shortly after in September.
Are we gonna discuss the fact that you became famous as a game warden?
Yeah,
Yes.
you're the one
Yeah,
who
she is
has been
famous.
seen. My
I've been
goodness.
seen, but
Yeah.
I have a stunt double. It's Kqun Kuka, or Saldano. She's a nurse practitioner here in the community, and so she does all my wicked wild stuff. That's not me. I'm just the one that can smile. Yeah, just
Writes
smile.
the
Yeah,
notes.
and usually they zoom in on just my name, so they know that it's Quinn writing the ticket, not Kai. But that is her.
Don't let her fool
We
you.
do have
Right.
very
Don't let her
similar
fool you.
voices, and we get accused of being each other a lot, Kai and I. And so sometimes, because she's a provider in our community, people will come up and say hi, and I'm like, oh gosh, I just don't know you, and I feel bad because you should be getting a better reaction. So now I've been like, oh my God, you look great. How are
Yes.
you?
I've never
Good
met
to
this
see
person
you.
at all.
Right.
I had to
because-
move out of my town for the same
Yeah.
reason,
Right.
because
Yeah.
they would get me confused with my brother, and I would always tell them I'm the taller, better looking one.
Of course.
I don't know how they got so
Like,
confused.
how were
Yeah.
you confused?
Exactly. So
So that's how I became the game warden in Great Falls.
Well, that's a great story. Are you still playing a game warden?
No, I turned in my badge in 2020, and I became the tribal liaison for Fish, Wildlife, and Parks.
Oh.
And so I work in the legal unit, and I do I'm a bridge. And so I have the state government and the sovereign governments, and I align them for very
Wow.
critical partnerships, collaborations, anywhere from like going to Andes Park and doing some ethnography and new signs and having guest speakers, all the way to like treaty hunting in the governor's level and discussing those kind of issues. So
It's a big job.
That's a crazy
Yeah.
cool job.
it's a great
Talk
job.
about all the going full circle to art and politics. And
No kidding.
Yes,
Bringing
and so
all
this is
components of
Quinn.
your life. Yeah.
Kuka McGuire.
Yeah.
And she does a lot, and she's sleepy.
what a lucky fella that Mr. McGuire.
He is so lucky.
Okay, and so your worlds collide. Not only were you part of the hiring committee for Andy,
yes.
but now you are jointly, I assume, working together to put on this
Yes.
art show. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we
yeah.
dig into this art show, which is part of the experience during Western Art Week, Andy's a newcomer to it because it's been happening a long time. I'd like to get the history of what used to be called, and maybe is still called, I'm so well removed from everything, the King Kuka Family Art Show at First People's Buffalo Jump. I don't know what's called today, but it's been going on for a number of years. Tell us the history of how it got started and
I'll leave that up to her.
Okay,
to her
so
because it was my first day.
Yeah.
Was the art
Last
show
year.
3
Right.
years
Yeah.
ago.
We
so,
threw him to the
Big first
wolves,
day,
but he
yeah.
succeeds. He does well. That's why we keep him around. So I was doing an art show at what used to be the Sheridan, and now it's the Holiday Inn. Back in the day, if people from Great Falls, and I was doing my own first time ever show as Kqun Kuka, and I was doing it with my father-in-law Tom McGuire, who's a wood carver.
Oh, so
And-
you married into or
Art.
you're associated with this artistic family as well.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So Tom's good at carving, and he makes really beautiful trout, and puts them in some natural habitat, and he carves in rocks and all that stuff. So we did enough work to get a show put together, him and I.
Did
and-
your dad know Tom? Did they
Yes.
meet? Okay.
Funny story, but not in the art world.
Okay.
He was a principal. And he knew my brother.
Connection.
He knew my brother.
Oh,
the
okay.
saint.
The saint, the baby boy.
Yeah.
So there was a park manager who came and approached me and said, "Hey, we would love to have an art show at First People's. Could you do it?" And I was like right now? I have one here. And I
guess
said,
I could pack everything
yeah.
up and haul it out there.
And I was like, I could get like enough put together. I could panic for a couple weeks and get enough. But I said, you know what we really need is we need a Kuka art show. I said, my dad is very well known in the community. We still have his work. Some are for sale, but my siblings are great artists, and this is a place where we can come together as a family and have a big productive show for you and invite the community. And that's how it started. And so that was John Talley. He was the manager.
John.
He's retired. Right. And so my sister Kai took it under her wing because she has a degree in art as well as a nurse. She's a master's nurse student, so she's a nurse practitioner. So her art kicked in, and she just went to town. And her and Andy. So I let them because I want to stay. I don't want the conflict of interest here.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so Kai and Andy run the show. I'm just
an exhibitor.
Yeah, I'm off duty on Saturday, and I go.
Nice.
Yeah, we just provide really the opportunity and place to host it. It's a great connection for the community. Of course, this is traditionally Blackfeet territory where we're at in Great Falls anyway, so having Blackfeet artists out there is it's a great opportunity. Our show is that Saturday of Western Art Week in the afternoon from noon to 3:30, so stop by. You can check out our museum, but it's a great place for people to gather and join. We have a good time. The other kind of cool connection that we found out 2 years ago, her mom's name and my mom's name is the same name.
Oh,
and it's a unique name. It's Marietta.
Wow.
So we had that connection right off the bat because they're like, oh, this is Marietta Kuka. And I was like, my mom's name is Marietta.
Nobody,
I don't believe I don't believe I'd met anyone else with that name.
Yeah.
So we had that kind of unique connection right from my very first day out of First Peoples Buffalo Jump. So
and Mom really
it was great.
appreciates Andy and their relationship. And we do host other artists with us. We like to make it not just the Kuka, steals the show. So we've had other special guests in the past. And we invite that if there's other artists who just want to try a show and see what it's like and join us for 2026, we are open to that. And you could go through the First Peoples Buffalo Jump, especially through Andy.
Yeah, we do carry King Kuka artworks throughout the year in our gift shop. So if you can't make it out to the show, we do have a very nice gift shop with other artists as well that we have some of their artwork at the gift shop at First Peoples Buffalo Jump. So if you're not able to make it out there on March 22nd this year, still feel free to come out. We do always have art on display out there. That's for sale that we keep throughout the year that we buy from local artists. So
I think one of the most unique things about the First Peoples Buffalo Jump show is it starts off with a unique kind of art or an old school art with the rock art hike where you kind of dig into petroglyphs and pictographs.
correct. Yes.
Good job. I can never remember the petrograph part.
I have a hard time pronouncing those words as well. Yes, so that morning at 10 o'clock, we will do our hike up there to see the pictographs and petroglyphs. We do that throughout the winter months.
Only in the winter.
Only in the winter, again, because of those Indiana Jones items.
Yes.
So they have tried it, I guess, in the spring and even in the springtime. The last time it was, a group
Utter
of
chaos.
20 people and rattlesnakes. So we do go to the top. You come down to First Peoples Buffalo Jump. It's a $4 fee to go on the guided hike with us. You pay your fee, and then we all just kind of caravan up to the top of the Buffalo Jump if you've been out there before. We are actually doing one of those this Saturday as well. So that's this month. It's also this on the 22nd, I believe, again, here. On this Saturday, we'll be doing one of those hikes, and we'll have one of those hikes the morning of the show as well. That'll be our last one of the season. We've done a few already this winter, but you start at the top, the petroglyph and pictograph hike. It's off trail. There's no real trail, so it is
Pay
kind
attention.
of it's a little strenuous. There can be snow, and you kind of have to scramble up to the cliffs at some certain points. So we see some of that artwork up there. Those pictographs, they've dated them just for the style. They're about 1,000 years old or so at least.
Wow.
The original art.
Yeah, so we're not known for having those in the park. There's other places in Montana that have more examples of that. But definitely if you have a chance, it's a great hike to see. Most of those are on the south side of the cliffs facing, so they get a lot of sun, so they are starting to fade over time. But we see different examples of those. We kind of hike back down. You hike over a couple hundred yards, scramble up to the cliff again, see some more. You do that a few different times during the hike. It lasts about 2 hours. It's really only about a mile of hiking, but some of the places are a little tight. To get in and out of, we take about 20 people on the hike at a time. So you want to have everyone be able to come up, observe the different artwork, see that along the cliffs and let them look at it. No touching, of course, but they can take a look at the different pictographs.
And take pictures?
Yep, they can take pictures as well. That's fine. But it's definitely a unique experience out at First Peoples Buffalo Jump. And again, those happen during the winter months, generally when the snakes are denned up, so we don't have that issue of dealing with them. So,
Andy, do you lead the hike?
Yes, either myself or Clark. He is the manager out there.
He's been on the podcast.
He's been on the podcast, yeah.
So
We made love happen for him.
I heard. Yes, he's been.
Thank God we needed that.
I was not there for this. This was before my time on the podcast. Or are you
Was
talking
it?
about when he was here the last time? He was like
Have you only
going to
been
get-
with Clark
once.
once? Okay. So, yeah, we had him on once before.
Yeah,
And he used that as a
because I think
pickup
he
line.
was already with.
Yeah, the second
Sad
time.
lady.
I'm gonna try
Mhm.
that out. By the way.
Yeah.
So
I was-
right.
I'm gonna.
I was
still
on
try that
Montana's
out,
number one
so.
podcast, and people
Montana's
were like,
Wow.
number one podcast.
That's excellent.
now you can add that to your resume.
Yay.
Yeah.
I needed one of those. I was
Right.
struggling in social media.
I'm no damn expert, but I'm a Casanova.
No, there it is.
So, Andy, I do have to ask. You said the petroglyphs and pictographs are starting to fade. Will there be a restoration project where you go in and sketch them back in?
I really highly doubt that. Yeah,
No.
no, I
Tisk,
don't.
tisk.
I don't
Yeah.
think so.
I
So
thought
we
they'd
would-
be a little bit more affirmative of.
Yeah,
Absolutely not. That's not what we do.
we want to leave the things there as natural as
Mhm.
possible, the way that they've been for many, many years. So, yeah, that's one of the things we do. Definitely have to still kind of police at First Peoples. Is everything there is natural. You can't take a stone. You can't take a rock. There are still artifacts out there
Yeah.
that need to be left where they're at for everyone to be able to observe and see. Of course, there's definitely we discourage any type of taking of artifacts or any vandalism. You don't want to add to that. I know if you.
It is illegal.
I think about 10. Yeah.
So we
definitely.
do try to encourage that behavior to just stay.
Quinn
stay
will
honest.
send with someone with
Yes.
a badge to arrest you.
I can remember
She
like
knows people.
10 years ago, somebody carved their name next to
Oh,
Clark's
jeez.
name on Pompey's pillar, I believe. And
Wow.
it was
It's
like,
not me.
it was only like a couple feet away, and of course it was
That's
somebody from out of
horrible.
state. But I remember it getting defaced
Yeah.
out there. So
That's so hard.
definitely we don't want any activity like that out there. And again, we encourage people only to go see those generally when we're out there, just to stay on the trails and things like that. So
Yeah.
we still hear stories of like, oh, back in the day, we did all this nefarious stuff out at First Peoples, but we definitely discourage all of that activity now.
Yeah.
So you bet.
Unbelievable people with
I
your
know.
nefarious activities.
I know. It's usually the old timers that are usually like, these darn kids today. And then you're like, what were you doing in 1982? We know what you were doing. So,
So, Quinn, tell me about your pair, your buddy, your sibling buddy, your other siblings and their buddies, and the kind of art that we can experience. And then my big question is, since you are kind of a big clustering of people, are there any family fights that happen on Show
yeah, of course. We have to let our true colors shine. Andy probably seen it. There is
All
a little
love,
there's
all
a
love.
little sass at the end when it's closure time, but I wanted to recognize my siblings because it's a family show, but I also want to recognize them in their professional way of life, because when you're dealing with Indian people, there's this stereotype and these biases, and we don't get to see them in these professional settings. We get to see them in the news and in the newspaper, and what's hot is crime and things like that. So when you actually have Indian people succeeding and minding their own business, they're not talked about, right? So my siblings
great.
are all educated. My two oldest, one is a principal in Missoula. Amy is, she was intelligence of the defense in the Air Force, and now she was an officer, and then she owns a business where she helps civilians get contract work in the military. And then Coco is a nurse. She was a surgery operating nurse for a while, and now she's a school nurse, and she really likes it. Kai and Cody are both nurse practitioners, graduates of Gonzaga. Myself, and then my brother, who's has his teaching degree. And so when you get to see Indian people in that light, it makes me so much more proud of them too, because the opportunities are hard. And one day I was in Salish and Kootenai, where I'm a graduate from. I was at a council meeting, and the son of the president of my college was the chairman. And I said, your dad would be so proud of us because he built this college so this could happen, so that we could be here as professionals. We're graduates of that institution, and we're in a professional setting. And this is why he created this opportunity for tribal people to get an education. And so awesome. 3 of us have a degree from the Salish and Kootenai. My sisters followed me there. And it was cool because I'm a 4-year program. They were on a 3-year RN program, and we all graduated the same year. Classes, we had to retake some here and there, and we actually graduated in 06 together. So that was really cool. And then what was the big question? What was the big bang?
No, the type of art.
Oh, the type of art. Yeah.
We
so
know
the
you're
medium,
into steel.
right. So I do the metal art. Cody dabbled with that. I learned from Glenn Argon. He was an artist over in the Salish and Kootenai. And Coco and Cole do similar work as my dad's, the oil on paper and embossings. Cody is getting into some oil on canvas, but a lot of Prismacolor, which is kind of an oil waxy color pencil.
Okay.
Kai is doing all kinds of mediums. She's painting some buffalo skulls. She's doing oil. She's even printing on like leather purses and painting on the leather purse. And so we all have taken these mediums that Dad taught us, the techniques that he taught us, the design. And so you'll see similar things of Dad's. And so some people actually have made comments like, how is your dad gone and he's still creating artwork? And we're like, okay, that's my brother's signature and that's my sister's signature. And so it's
neat though.
Yeah, it is cool. And it's cool for people who collect them. And then his artwork is so one of a kind that we get to pass a little bit of that on. And so there's multiple different sizes. Cody's done some very large pieces, and we got a consignment deal this year to do 4 or 5 of us are doing a painting together, and it's going to go into a school in Missoula. And so there's some really cool things happening with us, and how we all branch and we help one another and we encourage each other. And so there is some fighting, I think, throughout the off season. And so this time of year we kind of come together. There's quite a bit of like some nagging as we set up and tear down, but you kind of have to.
All in good
No
fun.
comment.
It's girls. I mean, there's girls. It's
Like
like
a lot of girls.
like
Coming from a big family, it's very similar.
Yeah. And that's why Andy just blends in. And Clark digs it. As quiet as Clark is, he digs it. He's like, this is my game. This is my jam. I love these guys.
Yeah, we love the art show. It's one of our biggest events of the year. We love having people out. So it's a great time to come out to the First Peoples Buffalo Jump. If you haven't been out there, I still hear from people in Great Falls that I meet, like, I've never been out there before, and I grew up here. I
Shame
think
on
we
you.
took a school trip out there when I was a 4th grader. But yeah, it's a great place to come and visit. So that, the art show is a great opportunity. I heard the weather's going to be amazing. It's going to be 65
It's gonna be
to
perfect.
70
Right. It's
degrees.
going to be beautiful.
It's going to be beautiful out there. The birds are going to be chirping. That's going to be great. So come out definitely on the 22nd. The Kukas are also, the Kukas are a big deal, but they're so approachable and nice and sweet all the time. So they're very easy to speak to. They're very approachable. They're not hoity-toity or something artists. They're going to be very easy to talk to and approach and ask about their art.
So you don't have to be a expert in any kind of art to show up and talk to you.
My art story is always when I was in 1st grade, I could draw like a 5th grader, so I thought I was going to be an artist.
That's
and
a
then
big.
when I got to 5th grade, I could draw like a 5th grader.
Uh-oh,
didn't,
it plateaued.
And then now today, I can draw like a 1st grader.
Oh,
Go back
Full
and stuff.
circle moment. Yeah.
But I do love art. When I was in London, I actually took an art class, so it was kind of like an old school art class. She literally had a slideshow for 2 hours that would almost put you to sleep in the morning. She would go slide by slide, and like everyone's snoring. Or some people where I liked it, but then in the afternoon we would go to these different art galleries around London.
Cool.
So it was the only class I had that day. So it was awesome, and she took us to a lot of cool places that were off the beaten path. From everything that would have like medieval armor to we went to the National
neat.
Gallery and different places. So
Yeah.
when I traveled around Europe, I definitely took in a lot of art because I do like it, but my artistic skills are pretty much nil unless you like stick drawing, stick figure
The
drawings.
first
of
grade
people.
style.
Yeah, the first grade style.
We all
exactly.
started
So-
somewhere, Andy.
That's right.
Yes, yes.
You can join me on my TikTok journey. I've been following a watercolor person who's been teaching me how easy it is to do watercolor.
That is a very tough
And
medium.
So easy.
Every
I've
time I
tried.
look at it, I'm like, oh, I think I could do that. And then I'm like, no, you can't, Rebecca. There's no possible way you're going to do something
You
that's going
can.
to turn out like
No,
that.
you can, but I think it's a skill set that you have to keep it up, like running. You have to maintain your pace, or because you'll go backwards, like Andy's saying. So you have to keep moving, and that's what I've experienced in some of my drawing. I took a drawing class, and I was like, I could draw people's faces, and now I'm back to first grade again. So, but you can
Don't
keep, you
believe
can
it.
go back, and you can start over. But watercolor is a tough medium. It's interesting, it's beautiful, and so when you actually see someone with that talent, that's amazing to go, how did they do that with water and a little bit of paint?
Yeah.
As someone who is very not artistic in that way, well, in any way, but especially that way.
I was waiting for you to be like, I'm artistic in this way. I'm like, I'm looking forward to that.
No. In my brain, I'm like, it's a very, very natural talent. And so to hear you talk about that you can reverse in that talent is interesting, because to me, I'm like, oh, you're just, obviously you work at it, but it's interesting that you're saying you can
Maybe
kind of
that's my
revert.
talent. Because, I mean, I look at my dad's stuff, when he was a beginner and just starting out to when he passed away, it's magical what he did in his own, and how much he progressed, and then how much those were worth too. I have, when I was younger, my girls were in sports, and I would buy them the same things that my dad would buy me. We played basketball, and we had the nicest basketball shoes. And I think now, how did he pay for those?
Yeah.
Because you would have to sell so much art to get all of us girls these nice shoes. And we paid for we worked for him, so we paid for our own school clothes with that. But the basketball shoes were something he treated us with, and it's like, oh man, he must have been a really good artist to be able to, and then to think of the other things in life that we all, you don't know when you're going to get paid. I do. I know every 2 weeks I get paid. He didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't have health insurance. All those things of nowadays that really play an important role in society. It's like, wow, the struggle. So I blame a lot of that on his heart failure too.
Yeah. The stress and the well, and it's the perspective after you've grown up, because growing up with your mom and dad, you don't recognize in kind of the heat of the moment the things that are happening until you're an adult, and you're like, how on earth did they make that happen?
Yeah.
Or how were they able to do these kind of things? And I can barely be an adult and go grocery shopping on
Exactly.
my own. Like, there are so many
kidding.
days out of the year where I'm thinking, I need a supervisor. Like, why am I allowed to be on my own?
That's why I have Clark.
Yes.
Keeps me
Clark's the
alive.
adult.
Yes.
Quinn, are you any metal work that you're working on now that will be in the show?
I'm doing mostly beadwork for this show.
Okay.
I'm thinking I could get some stuff in the metal art world done. It's hard on my body, so it really. But once I'm in it, I'm lost in it, and so. But I work outside, so I have a lot of excuses.
So this time of year, it's beautiful to do that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. You just
Easy.
go.
Yeah, your fingers stay nice and
Right.
warm.
And I've done it, and I've completed some masterpieces. So I'm trying to see what the weather is going to be like in the next couple weeks to finish a couple. But mostly beadwork. I have a new it's Western wear with indigenous flair.
Oh,
And
neat.
it's kind of like some bracelets and earrings that I'm working on to blend those two. Because you do see a lot of indigenous jewelry in the Western.
You do.
You see the turquoise, you see those long beaded earrings, but you can tell a distinction between some. And so I'm trying to blend those to be a little bit more. And I like seeing people wearing Indian jewelry. I don't know if all natives feel that way, but I do, because it starts our conversation, and then you can start to get rid of those biases that way too. Because if you ever strike up a conversation just with anybody, you start to go, oh, that's not how I pegged you just by the way you look, right? And so those jewelry pieces are how I'm going to start my conversations with strangers.
I'm excited to see your jewelry pieces.
Yeah.
Yes, please come out. We have wonderful hors d'oeuvres and refreshments. Kai makes sure that everybody has snacks and is entertained. She's very and Coco's a lot quieter and shyer, and Cody's a surprise. Is she there? Is she not? Where is she? So it's quite the adventure. I did hear someone say last year that was at our show, he feels too much pressure in the other venues. There's too much crowd. It's slow. There's no like real intimate conversations. And so he chose the First Peoples because he can actually visit with the artist, see it, have a refreshment and some appetizers and get to mingle. And then you can go into the interpretive center too. We want you to see that. So,
well, and just the story of First Peoples Buffalo Jump and the history that's contained there, we see it all the time when people are like, "What is a buffalo jump?" And you know, what's that story? And then you have to kind of try and gauge: are they the type of people that are going to understand the frame of reference from the period that this happened? And you just kind of, some people you don't have to ease into it. Some people you be like, "Oh, before colonization, they drove herds of bison off a cliff to their death," and they're like, and then others, they're like, ah!
Right.
Yes.
yeah, yep.
But there was no grocery store. That's the grocery store. There was no way to shoot a bunch of bison to feed all the people that needed the meat. So.
Yeah, you look into the history of things, and we make that connection with kids, especially like that's the walking Walmart. So like, you know, I ask, you know, smaller students, especially the younger elementary school kids, like, where'd you get your shoes? Where'd you get your coat? Where did you get this? Where did you get the item? And, you know, where did you get your pot or pan or your tools? And of course, things like most of that's available at a big box store. But they didn't have that. You had to go harvest that. People came from miles and miles around to use this as a buffalo jump, and just the amount of buffalo jumps across the Great Plains is pretty amazing. So it was the way to do things, just like the way you make toast is you have a toaster. The way you harvest bison is through a buffalo jump. So you try to connect with whoever is there, and again, their age group or their level of knowledge to really see that. Some folks probably have more knowledge than me because it's really what they want to study and they're really into that. But we try to connect that to everyone. And then I always bring it back to we're just people, you know, whether you were, 500 years ago, whether you were in North America or you were in Europe or you're in Australia or whatever, we're all just humans. We all got our mom asking us where the next grandkid's coming from, or when's your next date, or what's going on, or maybe your significant other, trying to push you into other things or whatnot. We're all just humans. The people that were here 500 years ago are just like people today. We have the same thoughts and dreams and hopes, and most people just want to raise their families and have great outcomes for the people around them and things. And I think that's like a universal truth throughout wherever you're at and whatever culture you grew up in. Most people just want that. So
profound.
Yeah,
Andy.
I
That's
like
a great
that. And I
statement.
think there's a lot of indigenous truth to that, because we had a workshop held at the Jump. And it was it was fall, I believe. And there was an elder there from the Kootenai Cultural Committee who said something very similar, Andy. And I think that's important to know, that the indigenous people believe that all of us are related. So the bison was our relative.
Yep.
And when they speak now, which makes me feel good because I consider myself an urban Indian, right? Because I when I was in Great Falls, we were the Indian kids, but when you go to a tribal college, you're the white girl. And so you have to try to figure out where are you and who are you. And so I'm an urban Indian. I was given different opportunities. I was raised in this environment, but I have a lot of traditional things that my dad taught me. But knowing all those things and knowing that we're all related, I hear natives say my non-tribal relative. And I think that makes me feel so much more better than saying white or Indian. I don't like that. And I just recently went to a sign language class on the mountain man era, and they were talking about all the fur bear animals. And I know that the mountain man era is kind of a sore subject with the indigenous because it wasn't a good time frame and there was a lot of bad happenings. But they called the white man, and they kept saying that, the white man. And I was like, is that really what they called them back in the 1800s or 1700s when we started trading and all these things? Did they really say white man? Because that seems so harsh, right? They said, no, they actually called them the men in the hat. And even York, when he came up the river with Lewis and Clark, I said, what was he? He was the man in the hat with buffalo hair.
Oh.
And so I'm like, I like that so much. It's so much more kinder to call someone who's not indigenous, my non-native relative, also the man in the hat who has red hair and wears all this gold because he worked at a jewelry store.
Yeah. I'm blinging today.
You do. I like your cap and the tooth. The cap's pretty.
The
For those who
grills
can't
are
see,
good.
Andy looks
come
great.
out-
But
yeah, you have
but
to
it's
come
a
out to the
little
Buffalo
kinder,
to see,
right?
so.
And I don't like to say that because I have a son with my husband David who is blonde. And I don't want people to be like, you white boy, where it's like, but do they know who his mom is? Do they know who his enrolled grandfather is? So he's the little boy in the hat for now, But it's just like, let's look at it as we're relatives, just like the natives thought the animals and the other natural resources, we were relatives to each other that way.
So is your son and your siblings next generation picking up the artist traits? Are we going to see another Kuka generation?
Maybe Cody's kids. Oh, Kai's kids for sure. Oh yeah, those boys can draw without any training. They got so Kai's oldest, and they have shown there.
Really?
Yeah, they've shown in years past. JJ was really little and had some. It was pretty cool. I remember when I was very young and I got to show at a in this like the youth student shows of the Indian art. It used to be at the Civic Center.
Okay.
And so it was just all native artists. There was a like a youth section or whatever they would call it, juvenile, kid stuff. And so it was cool to see JJ do it. But I do think so. But they don't carry the Kuka name, so they're going to have to figure out a way to use that Nepo.
Yeah. You're going to have to figure out a way to ride the shirt tails.
Right?
Because it can't just be random kids that have talent.
Yeah.
No.
God.
Gotta be because of the Kuka name. Yeah.
And be the original.
Right.
Well, I really appreciate to get to hear some stories.
Yeah, that was great.
Get to meet you guys. That was fun. It's been a really fun time. And if you're not already planning, Western Art Week's right around the corner. I am in the middle of creating the most amazing itinerary
Excellent.
for Western Art Week that we're going to be sending out by email. I thought it was going to go a lot quicker than it is going.
It's hard to narrow down. There's a lot to see.
Well, and we're calling it the ultimate. I'm calling it the ultimate
So that's a lot of pressure too.
Western Art Week experience itinerary, which will include everything. There's no room to eat.
No.
Like there's like you're
Oh, it's
getting
like you're not
breakfast.
resting.
You're getting breakfast is really all like on Friday.
You get
That's
breakfast as you walk out the
Right.
door on
And
your own.
refreshments at the
Put
show.
on the itinerary.
Yeah.
It's on your own. And you're not going to any of these venues and getting fed. You may get some drinks because
Maybe.
there are staff that will serve you.
You might want to
That's
bring
true.
some snacks in your pocket
Right.
because
Yeah.
You might want to go through the buffet line twice at the hotel.
There you
Yeah.
go.
Before
Really,
you
There's
stock up.
really-
a good point.
That
so
is
I'm
smart.
working
That
on
is
this so that people, because I think there's still that confusion after 57 years of doing Western Art Week of how do you get to everything and what's happening and what's the best way to do this? And that's what I kind of like about the Buffalo Jump and the show that's out there is it's one day,
Yeah. It makes
couple
it.
hours.
And you get your natural resources, you get your hike in, so you can do a little bit of both where you walk and hike and then come see our show. You do get snacks there, which
Yeah.
I don't see in other places.
You kind of get everything at this show.
You get some history, you get some stuff that will not kill your brain cells, but enlighten them.
And if you do need a break, you can just hit the trails on your own, just a little
Right. You can
refresher.
go.
Go out and hike. I think I learned that even traveling around Europe. When you'd go from town to town, you could only do so much in each place, or it just all kind of runs together. So it is nice to pick what you really are into, or what a different experience, maybe something you didn't know, and try something new. But you can get overwhelmed by certain things, and I do like that about our show. It's great for a few hours that afternoon. You can just enjoy it, and you can kind of immerse yourself in it and just relax out there and take it all in. So it is nice.
So star that on the itinerary.
Definitely.
That
Yes.
First People's
Bold
Buffalo
it.
Jump is one you want to see because we need some new faces out there, and it's going to be, if it's the ultimate, this is going to be the ultimate year for us as well.
And we have lots of fun. It's a fun show. We're not stuffy, so you can come out and have some fun. Definitely.
Yeah, we do have a great time.
Well, thanks
I'm
for
excited.
sharing.
Yeah.
I feel like I just went into NPR voice.
So now we practice our voices.
That's what we do
There's
now.
the voice. We've been waiting for it the whole time.
So when we go out in other places, we like to pretend. So we'll go to another town, and I'm like, "Who are we now?"
Right.
And so I'm Demi.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Demi Wispy is my name, and that might have been Demi, getting ready to go.
Oh. So can people come and have I have a special request. I want to see Demi.
No.
No?
No.
Well, you'll
Demi.
definitely know where they heard it when they show
right.
up.
That's right.
So, and we were playing in Flathead Lake one time, and there was a big party with all these boats, and my nieces and nephews were with us, and they're in their 20s, and so we were like, we all changed our name. My husband was the rich uncle because he had the boat, and we just lived vicariously through these people for half an hour. So
love
come live with us for a little bit at the jump and
Create
be
a
who
new
you want to
persona.
be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Be
Definitely.
a rich,
I like that.
fancy art buyer.
that
Right.
loves indigenous flair.
Yes.
Yes.
It's going to be amazing. We can help you plan your trip. That's what we do. That's our job, is to tell you what to do when you're here, oddly enough. So give us a call, 406-761-4436. And then check out westernartweek.com. Just a side note, that's on our website. You
It is.
are actually going to be on
You
our
can
website when
type
that
either
happens.
one, but it's going to get you to ours. And we have a Facebook page that's
Yep.
updated with things going on.
Yep, and you can learn what to do. If you want to subscribe to the email before it goes out, you have plenty of time. It'll probably be tomorrow before that happens. So,
And this comes out Friday. So
yeah, it'll be good. So, folks, until we see your bright, smiling, happy, healthy, beautiful faces in our fine city, we do hope you are creating amazing memories with your friends and family wherever you might be. We'll see you soon.
We're No Dam Experts is the recorded claims from Great Falls, Montana, covering what you need to know about this amazing damn town.